Welcome to another episode of the Let's Think About It podcast. I'm your host, Coach Mo, and I'm here with another amazing, exciting guest, and her name is Diamond Drip. Diamond, what's up, girl?
Hi, Coach Ro. I am just honored to be here with you and our listeners today.
I'm happy that you're here. But before we jump into this, you gotta tell the audience where you're checking in from. What part of the country are you in?
Yeah, I am in Maryland, so I am on East Coast time.
Maryland. Okay, okay.
Yes,
Born
home
and
of the
raised?
crab. Yeah, so we affectionately call this area the DMV, DC, Maryland, and Virginia. And my grandparents owned a home in DC. So when I was with my mom, we would move between my grandparents and places in Maryland, different schools that I went to. So pretty much born and raised Maryland.
Okay, okay, okay. So with that being said, tell my audience who you are, what you do, what your expertise is.
I love that. Yeah. So I am, as we mentioned, Coach Diamond Drip. And what I do is I support women in learning how to align their energy with their business. So many times we are working against ourselves, and it gives way for a whole bunch of outside noise to come in and cloud our judgment, make us second guess ourselves. And so I support women in figuring out how to X out all the noise, trust that inner wisdom, and really bring them, like whatever the authentic them is, into their business so that they can magnetize their dream clients.
That's awesome. It sounds to me like you bring tremendous value to the clients that you serve. How did you land in this space?
Yeah, so the tools that I use now, I've been using them personally for just a little over a year now. And they came to me at a point, I was already doing business coaching, and they came at a point where I was really trying to figure out what my business superpower was. And the one thing that I was really noticing was that the proven strategies and frameworks for trying to figure out what that was, like they didn't work for me. And so when I discovered the tools that I now include in my framework, it was like somebody was looking in on my life with a magnifying glass, showing me all of the reasons why the stories I was telling myself just weren't serving me. And it actually helped me replace them with innate gifts that my soul chose in this lifetime. And so the journey to get here from business coaching into this now more spiritual branding space, it didn't come without its ups and downs and adversities, but I wouldn't have it any other way because I had to go through a lot of using these tools myself in order
Okay.
to figure out how to support other people and how in using them.
Okay. How did you even get into coaching? Was it some sort of adversity that you deal with as a young adult that you wanted to be an entrepreneur and be a coach? What was the light bulb to say, yeah, I'm gonna be a coach, and that's what I'm gonna do. That's the path I'm gonna go down. So take us through that for business coaching.
Yes, when I was working a W-2 job, I was a general manager of a gym. And when the company shut down due to when the place that I was working at, they had multiple locations, but when it shut down due to them losing their lease, I was in this space and forced to figure out what I wanted to do. Did I want to get another job? What did I want to do? And I was feeling like the job scene was something that wasn't like this whole status quo, go to school, get good grades, get a good job so you can get all the things, whatever they say is the American dream. I was like, I've tried this a few different times and it didn't work for me. So I actually chose entrepreneurship because I wanted to give myself a chance to figure out what I wanted to do, not just if I could meet the requirements of a job. And the first business I ever started was a product-based business. And it did really well, so well that I started a second business, which was a side hustle, which was graphic design. I was creating logos, I was helping people with their social media, building websites, etc. And the one thing that I noticed in both of those, the side hustle and then the main job, was that I was talking to people. I was helping them in my product-based business. I was helping them figure out the root and getting deeper so that I could make the best product recommendations to help them deal with the symptoms. And so there was always this element of like life coaching involved. I didn't call it that, but that's what it was in retrospect. And then in my graphic design business, a lot of times I had to work with business owners to help them get to a point of clarity so that I knew how to execute whatever the design was that they didn't have the skill set in the software to execute. And what came with that was like brand coaching, the things that I was learning in school, pursuing my degree. I was actually teaching them so that they could have the information and make more informed decisions. And the one thing with both of these pieces that weren't technically being included as a service that I was offering in the business was that I was coaching people in this way. And so at a point in my life where I was in some major transformation, I had just gone through my psilocybin clinical trial, which is the active component in magic mushrooms that actually healed my depression. I was like, okay, how can I bring what I love into the businesses that I created just because I was good at them? And probably about 8 months after the trial, that was when I made the switch and went into coaching. I joined a program so that I could learn how to build my coaching business in a way that would actually help me set myself up as an authority in the industry and give me the frameworks for how to bring out what I was doing in a succinct way that people could understand, namely my target market could understand and resonate with. I don't think I ever would have, as a child, said, "Oh yeah, I want to be a coach when I grow up."
Right,
Um,
right.
but it has been the most fulfilling work that I ever could have chosen this lifetime.
Absolutely. I can relate a little bit. I remember when I had lost a job, it was years ago, and I was introduced to coaching. Someone was working with me, right? And she poured her coaching into me, and it was brilliant. It was very helpful. It was transformational. It was very inspiring, and it just really pulled me out of my rut, right? And because of that, I said, I want to do that. I want to position myself to help people the way that this coach helped me. And that's what I've done. That's what I've done. And so it's also led to this podcast, right? Because this is another way of coaching, in my opinion, because I bring on people, professionals, experts like yourself to provide these insights. And maybe it just might inspire somebody to get out of their own way and take that next step. But I'm gonna go back to you though. You had mentioned early on about things that you had to apply for yourself. What were some of those things that you needed to apply for yourself so that you can start to level up?
One of the main things that I had to apply, especially when it came to the tools, was leaning into them. Two of the main tools that I use in my business are human design and gene keys. And so human design gives you like a owner's manual for how you make your best, most aligned decisions, how you're able to tap into that inner wisdom that our culture doesn't necessarily value, that intuition, that inner knowing. And so, one of the things that I really had to do in the beginning was I had to, as you said, get out of my own way because a lot of the things that I was doing to try to grow my business were things that I had learned in a program, were things that I had learned going to webinars, workshops, et cetera, things that I really dove into. And so, what that caused was a lot of noise in my mind about the best way to grow my business. And one of the things that human design really emphasizes is that you know the direction that you're being pulled in, the direction that you should be going in based on that internal guidance.
Right.
And our minds, especially the inner critic, will come in and will feel one way and we'll be like, I know this is the direction that I want to go in. But then you have the knowledge, which is, but what about these other things? You can't just ignore them. And so then
Right.
you go against your intuition and you're like, okay, I got to do these things somehow. So one of the main things that I had to do was figure out how to quiet the noise. And it looks different for everyone. There are 7 different authorities in human design and
Mm.
5 different energy types. And so, what might work for an emotional generator like myself may not work for a splenic projector or what have you, as an example. So, one of the things that I really had to do was I had to start figuring out how to, one, how to identify that voice because for so long I had ignored it and it got mumbled in with all the noise. And then I had to build trust. I had to show the voice, the inner wisdom, me, spirit, whatever you want to call it,
Yep.
had to show me that not only was I willing to find and hear you, but actually listen.
Yep.
We might hear, and that takes a rebuilding of trust with yourself because for so long the voices, you're just not going to listen to me anyway.
And it sounds real. And I was talking about this in an earlier podcast, and it was titled "The Inner Critic is a Sly Mother." You
Mhm,
know what? Because that's what he does or she does. She just,
mhm.
you have this feeling that you're doing the right thing and you're going to go down this path. And then the noise come, the doubt, the worry. Oh, you shouldn't be doing this. And then the projection of the assumptions of what you think might happen if you go down this road. And what will people think of me if I do this? Oh, no, I can't do that. And then it's just this noise and you're just stuck. You're stagnant. The problem with that is we're often an autopilot of that, right? And we don't know what we don't know that we're in that. So we're naturally just stuck. And just like you said, it takes a little bit more maturity, openness to really dive into self-awareness and understanding, what do I really want? Is this true what I'm hearing in my head? And having that kind of conversation with yourself. Because when we confidently have that conversation with ourselves, that's where we start to formulate the trust within ourselves. So that's
Yeah.
powerful. That's powerful for what you're doing, for what you did to help yourself
Yeah.
and what you're currently doing to help clients.
Yeah. That awareness piece, it is so easy to slip back into comfort and having
Yeah.
the awareness and being able to catch yourself. Like even in the beginning, I had to give myself a lot of grace because I had spent 28 years forming these beliefs, forming these old stories, forming these things that I defaulted to. So yeah, trying to figure out and listen to my voice, whatever that was when I at the time when I was searching, like that's gonna feel uncomfortable. That's gonna be something that is like easy to go back to. So yeah, those were really the main things, which if you had to boil it down, it was getting to this place of self-awareness. That was the first step.
So what's one of the first things that you do with a client to help them regain that self-awareness for themselves or that trust within themselves? What is that specific tool that you go to help them?
Yeah, so I really have started to operate off of a framework now, which interestingly enough is called trust. So the very first thing that we do is we will tune into their authentic self. And what that entails is really discovering their unique energetic blueprint and beginning to recognize their innate strengths and their potential. So many times the inner critic will limit our potential because of other people's limitations. It's no, you can't do that
Yes.
because you're not X, Y, and Z. You don't have blah, 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 blah. And so, really beginning to recognize the strengths and the potential that comes with those strengths, that comes with those channels, and starting to embrace their true nature beyond these conditioned beliefs, beyond this outside noise, beyond the programmed inner critic. From there, we work together to reconnect them with their inner wisdom. So, learning to trust their intuition, learning to trust that inner guidance, developing a deeper understanding of how they make really aligned decisions and what that feels like in the body. And so that entails a lot of cultivation of self-awareness, like we were just talking about, and emotional intelligence. From there, we work to unveil their purpose. So many of us humans, we know that we came here to do something. Some of us know what it is out the gate and we go. Some of us are like, I think I know, but I don't really know. Leaning into that unique energetic blueprint to give us some clarity around the passions, around what truly matters to us. And that obviously comes from that inner wisdom. From there, we really start to align their actions with their energy. So, understanding their natural rhythms and energy flows, especially for my, like I said, I love my ideal client is a woman because we have our own set of stuff that we have to work with when it comes to aligning our energy. Every single phase of our cycle, and there's four of them, it has its own personality, it has its own food needs, it has its
Yeah.
own productivity
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of things that we need to work with to align our actions with our energy, learning when to take action and when to wait, and really developing strategies for how we can work harmoniously with our innate tendencies and our innate ebbs and flows. And then the last piece is really transforming their reality through conscious creation. So, harnessing the power of focused intention and attention from what is already flowing through them, what their purpose is, what the systems that we're setting up in their business are, so that they can really spend more time in their zone of genius and less time on like the tedious things. So that's where like the business coaching is still in there. It's like we do a lot of work on
Yeah.
you,
Absolutely.
getting you here. And then we move into, okay, how do we make technology work for me so that I can spend more time getting to know myself, making sure I'm staying in touch with my voice and really showing up in my genius.
I want to go deeper with you on
Okay.
this. Take us through a time when you realized that this really works.
Mm,
This, what was that experience like when you really self-discovered that this process really works?
yeah, perfect example. And this example comes from, it was a learning example for sure, because I was still building that trust with myself. So I had an opportunity to speak at an event, and the person, I knew them prior. And so I was like, oh, yeah, of course. I'm driving right now. I was traveling to a different state. And I was like, as soon as I get settled in, I'm going to lock in my spot. All in this same time, the same week, I had applied for a speaking opportunity that was with my exact ideal audience. They were talking about things that really aligned. And I submitted a reel, submitted an application, and I was just in this limbo of waiting. I was tired. So I leaned into the voices that said, oh, you should lock in this speaking opportunity because you said you would, right? You said your word said you're going to do this. I didn't even check my email. I didn't even see if I got into the other event. I was just operating on, you said you were going to, and you're going to be flaky if you don't. And then,
Accountability,
right,
accountability. Yep.
judgment and all the things, all the inner critic stuff. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to lock it in. The next morning, I woke up and I realized that I was chosen for the speaking event that actually was with my people. I felt like I was going to have to shift and mold my message in order to fit a more corporate style versus
Mm,
the other one, all about spirituality, all about holistic wellness. And it suffices to say, I checked, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get this thing. And I had to call the person. and basically say I didn't realize that I had double booked myself because the email came in the day before. I just didn't check it until the next morning. And it was a learning lesson because when I secured my spot that night, the night prior,
Mm-hmm.
I had a feeling like you should wait. But because I didn't trust myself, I was trying to place logic on why I should wait when I made this commitment and I'm trying to honor my commitment. And I had a feeling, and my authority is emotional authority. And so we really do our best when we wait for clarity.
Right.
And I went against it. And it caused this whole situation where now I'm in the process of getting a refund because it was within 24 hours of signing up for the event. The event was like a month out, but it put us in a interesting relationship dynamic where now this person thinks I don't want to support them because I don't want to do their event. And I'm like, it's not even like that. It's literally a situation where I would come to your event after because I think her event was longer as a patron. I just need to speak at this other event. And
Yeah.
it was one of those things where I wouldn't have even had to go through the energy exhaustion that came with that if I would
Mm-hmm.
have just listened to that inner voice that was like, just wait until the morning to secure this spot. I know you said you're gonna do it today, but just wait.
That's interesting because you're right. It's we get so caught up in the action mode that we got to do something right now. And instead of just, chilling, chill out for a second. Let's
Wait.
listen to that inner voice in that moment and let's see what that has to give us in support. And most people don't know how to really do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who are the clients that you help and work with?
So the clients that I get the most lit up working with are clients who have had plant-based medicine experiences themselves, or they want to because they recognize the healing benefits. Those are the people I love working with the most, especially because I can give them insight into things that I have done that have helped me reach this higher level of consciousness and how I'm able to bring those downloads, those insights into my business and have them not feel shame. So many times in the business world, if people learn that you use magic mushrooms or you smoke cannabis, like there's almost this stigma that comes with it. Like you're not as serious about what it is that you do. And that's simply not true. These are tools that we use to help us reach that higher state of consciousness, to
Mm,
help us rest, to lessen the anxiety that comes with a busy mind, a busy, noisy brain. And so I love being a space where we can talk about the insights and things that come up during plant-based medicine experiences, because oftentimes those people are more open to things like human design. They're more open to things like gene keys because they're already walking this path of awakening, of awareness. And they really just want a space where they can bring all of these pieces together, where they can figure out what in the business realm they really want to bring in, what works for them, bring in the plant-based medicine experiences so they don't feel like they have to hide that. They can talk about it when they're on podcast interviews and not worry about it damaging their brand because it's a part of them. And then bring in these other spiritual pieces, human design, gene keys into what they're doing. So my ideal client is someone who is really wanting to expand into that next level of consciousness, into that next level of their business. And ideally, if they could, they would do it at the same time.
okay. How does one know when they're dealing with, let's just say, the inner critic
Mhm.
versus depression? How would you differentiate that from a person who doesn't really know the difference?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, actually. The inner critic is this voice in your head that basically poops on everything that you want to do, that you feel as though is meaningful. So it's that voice of doubt that comes in and makes you question the direction that you're going in. It comes in and it compares you to other people. It's always using these external metrics and beliefs to kind of place limits on you that really hold you back. So that's how I see the inner critic. With depression, I feel like the two can play into each other. So I feel like depression is just this repeated cycle of really believing the inner critic and then placing those limitations on yourself and having that affect you in a way that is profound, that keeps you stuck, that keeps you unable to really engage with life, to really find joy in the little things. So the inner critic, in my experience, it quiets down sometimes. Like it's not always in play. It really speaks up when I'm like parenting,
Right.
because
Right.
there's no guidebook on that really. It really speaks up in my business because a lot of times you are looking at other people's paths and you're already comparing yourself to other people, seeing how you measure up, especially with things like market analysis, competition, whatever, all of the things. And so the inner critic just takes that and runs with it. It's okay, now you've done all this information about what they do and what they offer. Like, how are you measuring up? So it just gives that fuel. So I feel like that those are things where the inner critic really speaks up. But the inner critic isn't such that you can't enjoy life, isn't
Right.
such that you can't have these pockets and have passion, right? You can have passion and have your inner critic criticize you on how you want to pursue that passion. But with
Exactly.
with depression, the passion is gone. The passion isn't there. There's a lot of wandering and there's a certain sense of purposelessness that comes with depression of what does light me up? What am I going to listen to? Things like that. So that's how I would
And more often than not, people dealing with depression should seek medical advice and see a practitioner in that area. Coaching doesn't solve that. So I just want to make sure I put that out there. But that inner critic, that sly mother, you know what, he does find a way to slip in there and bring the negativity to what you're trying to do. And it creates that doubt, like you said, or consistently telling you you're not good enough. You should be doing this, or this isn't going to work. Why are you even putting in the energy? Right. And when we listen to that's where I come up with the phrase, we're getting in our own way because we're paying a lot of attention to that inner critic. And one quick tip in how I address my inner critic, that's a great perspective. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to try this though. It just suppresses itself automatically. And what I found through my experience in dealing with my inner critic, action always silences my inner critic because when the doubt is present, worry starts to come, fear, you're trying to assume certain events is going to happen before they actually happen. By listening to that, it keeps you unproductive in those moments. And when I put action to it, it moves me forward and it suppresses the inner critic in that moment. But guess what? The inner critic finds another way to resurface in a different area. And it's just this ongoing pattern until we learn to be more intentional, have better self awareness, and having a strategy and a plan of how you address your own inner critic. And when you understand that about yourself, you become a very powerful individual. So that's my spin on it too.
I love that. I love that, like acknowledgement of the inner critic saying, I'm going to go a different way. It reminds me of the tip that I was given of like when the inner critic presents you with something, asking it, how is that helpful? And then that's where the awareness piece comes in, because
Yeah.
if your inner critic can only give you reasons that stem from fear, scarcity, this kind of lack mindset, like there isn't enough out there, then you know not to listen because you know that those things are not on a higher vibration of where you're trying to be. They're not on that next level of where you're trying to be. Again, bringing
Absolutely.
in your point of being like, okay, thanks for that. I'm going to go ahead
Yeah.
and do this.
The inner critic never shuts up, right? He just finds a way to navigate and to get in our and to get into our head. And as long as we can continue to create that self-awareness that I'm going to follow my true intentions and what my intuition is telling me in that moment and take action towards that, whether that action could be just to pause, maybe it's to just listen, maybe it's to move in a certain direction, whatever. But being present to listen to that is powerful. You dropped a lot of powerful insights today. How can my audience find you?
I appreciate you. They can connect with me on my website, diamonddripconsulting.com. As a matter of fact, I really do recommend that they pull their free energetic blueprint so they can start understanding how they make their best, most aligned decisions.
Tell me a little bit more about that energetic blueprint.
Yeah, that's what I call a human design body graph chart. So it tells them their energy type. It tells them how the universe brings them opportunities. It gives them insight into how to identify that inner voice that they should be listening to. Is it the spleen? Is it waiting out the emotions? Is it speaking your truth into your environment so you can hear it reflected back to you, etc.? And it tells them kind of the role that their aura takes on when they're in an environment. So it tells them how other people see them and then their underlying script of how they interact with the world.
You know what? I'm gonna have to tap into that. I love just learning as much as I can about myself. And I think that's awesome. And that's on your website.
Yes, it is.
Repeat it one more time. What's your website?
Diamonddripconsulting.com.
There it is, everyone. DiamondDripConsulting.com. I appreciate you. Any final thoughts, words of wisdom that you would like to lead the audience today?
Yeah, just one. The limit does not exist, but fear and self-doubt will make you believe that it does. Stop letting your beliefs hold you back.
I love that. Thank you, Diamond.
Thank you.
I appreciate you.